Hi, my name is Mary Otto. Welcome to Inspiring People. My guest today is Bill Getzinger. Welcome to the show, Bill.
Thank you.
Glad to have you here. Bill, as you know, this show is about inspiring people and people like you who inspire other people to do really good things also. So let's begin by just having you tell the viewers your full name.
William Getzinger.
Okay, and your middle name is?
Martin.
Martin. And yesterday, the other day when Bill and I were talking and preparing for the interview, we got about halfway through before I even asked him how old he was. So why don't you tell the viewers right now how old you are?
95.
95. I was completely taken aback by that. I thought he was much younger. So where were you born?
What?
Where were you born?
In Elbow Lake, Minnesota.
Okay, and tell me something about your family. First of all, your family, who your mom and dad were, and your brothers and sisters.
My father was a former editor of the Grant County Herald newspaper, and was also the judge of probate for about 50 years.
In Elbow Lake.
My mother was a school teacher when they were born, or when she was married, and then when they got married, then she started working in the newspaper office.
Okay, so she, for her time, she was one of the women who worked outside the home,
Yes.
as well as inside the home, right? And how many brothers and sisters did you have?
I've got one sister, Ruth.
Okay, and is she still living, I understand,
Yes,
right?
she is.
Okay, and might even get an opportunity to watch this show, right?
She could. She lives in Fergus Falls now.
Okay, and how old is your sister?
92.
92, that's pretty neat. Now, you and your wife's name, I believe you said, was Ruby, right? I think you told me that. And how did you and Ruby meet?
We met while I was in the Navy, going to a gunnery school in Miami, but we met at a dance. And I've got 10-foot weights on each foot. She was still willing to try me out again.
So she thought you were a pretty great guy, even though you had a little trouble with the dancing, huh?
It certainly wasn't my dancing.
And how long were you and Ruby married?
We were married in 1947.
Okay. And how many children?
2.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about your children. You have a son.
I have a son, Larry. He's a certified internal accountant. And lives in Plymouth.
Okay.
And Nancy, my daughter, is married to Dr. Henke.
That's right. She's married to Dr. Bill Henke, and so she is the mom then of their 2 children, right? So you have 2 grandchildren who live in town?
Yes.
For town? Okay, David and Lauren, right?
And Larry has 2 children.
Okay. And so I know that when we talked before this, you talked about how you've been so active most all of your life. And where did you go to college, and what sort of activities were you in when you were at college?
Well, I went to McAllister College. And as a freshman was lucky enough to make the varsity basketball team. And then because people knew me, I imagine, I was made the president of our freshman class. And I was in the chorus.
And were you I think you said something about playing tennis.
What?
Didn't you play tennis in college
Yes.
too, did you? So kind of one of those all-around college guys, right? And what did you do for most of your working career? What job did you have? What kinds of jobs did you have?
I had a general law practice.
Okay.
From graduating from McAllister, I went to the University of Minnesota and obtained my law degree. Went back to my hometown to practice. And that's where I was when war was declared.
Okay. Okay, and you have considerable expertise and considerable history regarding World War II, don't you? And
Yes.
some of the places that that you were and What was your role, and what role were you in the Navy, you said, and what role did you play in that, in the service? What offices did you have?
In the Navy?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I started out as an enlisted man. I enlisted the day after Pearl Harbor. And then took me 6 months before I could become a commissioned officer.
Mm-hmm.
Then from that time on, I was in various ships.
Mm-hmm.
My first assignment was as an armed guard officer,
Mm-hmm.
where we had about 30 Navy men and the rest were merchant marine men.
And that first trip took you to some rather interesting places in the world, didn't it?
That first trip took me right around the world before I got back again.
Okay. How long were you on that trip around the world? How long?
11 months
11 months.
on that first ship.
And we have a map that has, that will show the viewers, that has lots of different pins in it, actually showing where you have been on your various travels,
Yeah.
right? I understand too that you and your wife like to travel quite a bit, and you actually put together trips for other
Yes.
people, didn't you? To talk a
Correct.
little bit about that.
Well, we started out just my wife and I and another couple would travel down to Mexico or up to Canada or here and there. Then others would say, I wish we could go along. And from that it started out. Our first trip was to Australia, and that I planned. Then after that, some of our trips were planned through travel agencies.
Sure.
But generally, I was able to get variances in the itinerary. And from having been in most of these places while I was in service, they would do that for me. So, for instance, we were the first American group to visit the newly formed island of Krakatoa.
And whereabouts is Krakatoa?
Krakatoa was an island in the Straits of Sumatra,
And where
and
are the
exploded about 70, 80 years ago. And at that time created the biggest tidal wave the world had ever known.
Really?
Then after about 50 years, why the island started reforming. And now it's another little island. So we were the first group to go to this new little island.
Oh my. Well, I know you've got stories about many of your trips, and hopefully we'll get an opportunity again to talk with you and hear more about those. And now you're living at the Madison, and you've got quite a nice apartment here. What sort of things are you doing at the Madison to keep busy and have fun here where you're living now?
Well, we like to play whist. And we like to have sing-alongs. And other groups come in with music. Like today, Lloyd Benson will be in playing for us.
And I understand that you get a lot of those activities going, don't you? Like to have something happening here, right?
Right.
Okay. Well, there are so many stories that you could tell and things that we could talk more about, but that's about all the time we have. So I just want to say, Bill, it's been my pleasure meeting you, and I'm going to play cribbage with this guy sometime, and we'll see who can win at that, huh? Thank you so much, Bill, for being on the show.
Welcome to What's It Worth? Every week, Jerome and his panel will appraise different antiques that were brought in by you, the viewer. What's It Worth is brought to you by
Take a bite out of life. Yeah, it's a barrel of fun.
Hey, somebody brought in this lovely little concertina accordion, mahogany case, and made by the Majestic Company, and dates from about the late 1919s to early 1920s. Just in excellent condition with its original leather case with a leather handle and green velvet lining. So these concertinas are coming back into favor. Accordion playing is starting to pick up again, so it's real nice to see one in this good a shape. This is what they call the Anglo version. There were two types that these were made, and one was called the English and one the Anglo. On the English version, when you played it and pushed a button, the same note would play when you squeezed it together as when you pulled it apart. But on the Anglo version, it's more like a harmonica, where it has when you push a button, it plays one note on the pull and a different note when you squeeze it back together. So it gives you a whole nother range of type of playing. So in fact, I'll even give you a slight demonstration. I'm not an accordion player, but I'll show you how that works. I'll just use one button here. You hear it on that one, and then on the squeeze, it's a different tone. And you can do that with both sides at the same time and play four notes. Pretty neat little instrument, and in just great shape. So it was really a pleasure to see one, and I think someone could have a lot of fun getting this in a band again. So we think the value on this little Anglo concertina is valued at somewhere around $275 to $300. Real pleasure to see you.
We've got the look you want. Anything you want, you can find at your furniture center. Any look that comes to mind. We've got the look for any room in your home. We've got the look, a style to call your own. At Minnesota Warehouse Furniture, we've got the look you want.
We brought in this piece of depression glass that you don't see very often. This is a candy dish with the original metal caddy. The pattern is called number 612, or most people are familiar with the name horseshoe. And it was made by the Indiana Glass Company from 1930 to 1933. This candy dish was made in green and pink. Some of their other pieces were done in yellow, but the candy was only done in green and pink. So you don't see this candy dish very often, so it's really nice to have it here at the antique show. So this one in pink retails for about $235, and if it was in green, it'd run about $230. So they're real close together. The pink has always been the most collected color of depression glass, but so it was really nice to see this candy dish with its caddy that you don't see very often. Indiana Glass, $235 value.